right, Midpoint, why don't you come on up to the stage and join me in worship. Staring into your eyes makes my heart come alive. Suddenly brought to life when I met you. Would you clap with me? Reaching beyond the skies, running deep, stretching wide. Perfect love realized here with you. This love is for real. You will never let go, never let go. Oh, it's more than just words. Love beyond my control, out of control. Sing it out with me. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. Whoa. You're pulling me closer and closer. You're holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. In your heart, I'm found. I want you. I want you. You won't let me down. You got me. You got me. Yeah, this love is for real. You will never let go. Never let go. Whoa, it's more than just words. Love beyond my control, out of control. You're pulling me closer and closer. You're holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. Whoa. It's pulling us closer to Him. Let's sing that out. You're pulling me closer and closer. You're holding my heart till the very end. Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. Oh, let's put those hands together. Staring into your eyes makes my heart come alive. Suddenly brought to life when I met you. You go now. Let's go crazy. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. Whoa. Worship this out to our God. You're pulling me closer and closer. You're holding my heart till the very end. Oh, Jesus, I'm found in your freedom. This is real love. This is real love. This is real love. Man. Hey, are you guys feeling all right tonight? All right, hey, you know what? We're gonna do a new song up here tonight. But I know sometimes we're coming in on Saturday nights and we might feel a little bit low energy. But it all has to do with you guys, and it all has to do with encountering our God. Are you guys excited to encounter our God? Okay. All right. So we're gonna teach you a new one. It has a lot of moves, and I'm gonna ask you guys to be a little bit silly. Are you good with that tonight? Just a little bit silly for our God. Oh, sweet. I got some dancers to help me out. Yes, it's going to be great. So, hey, let's put up that chorus really quick as we learn it. So, every time we say the word love, I want you to show me a little bit of a heart here. See, everybody with that heart. So, it's going to go, your love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. We're going to spin on all around. You get it? It's super easy. You got it. So let's try that one more time with the spin on all around. So your love love is all around. Everybody spins. You got it. Awesome. And last thing, I think when we start to hear some of our sample track parts, when you hear this, oh my goodness, that is awesome. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go down with me like this on each note. So it's gonna go. So let's practice it with the track. Here we go. So it's gonna start out like this. When I was searching, your love was never far. You made a way to get to me. You were the whisper leading me to your heart. Forever I belong to you, and now I can see clearly. My God, you are for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down, and I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. Believe in you, holding on to you, holding on to you. Know that you will never fail. All of you, you will never change. Your love me down. Here we go. So right when I need you. Oh my goodness. Sorry, technical difficulties. You guys, we're gonna drop into that one more time. Is that cool? Here we go. Right when I need you. Right when I need you, you listen as I pray. You leave the 99 for me. You paint the sky with promises of your grace. So I would find my way to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you are for me. You won't let go. Your love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you, holding on, and I know you will never. I want all of you, never change. Your love won't let me down. Come on. Love won't let me down, down, down. Love won't let me down, down. Love won't let
And you guys can have a seat. Go ahead and make your way on back to your seat. Thanks, guys. Awesome. Hey, for those of you that don't know me, my name is John. I am your Saturday Squad resident. I'm so pumped to be here with you guys. If you're new, we are so thrilled that you're with us. We want to make sure you guys find a small group and get plugged in after service. So if that is you, feel free to stick around and we will make sure that you get plugged into the right small group after service. Tonight is an awesome night. We're so glad you're here. Tonight we're going to be diving into what is worship. And we're going to be talking about how does God speak to us through that. And so, Abby, are you out there? I heard a really cool story from Abby just a few minutes ago. Would you run up here? Thanks. And it's just about how worship has impacted your life. And would you just tell us a little bit about that story you told me?
Well, so maybe like a few months ago, my dad, he was at church. And so my parents, they work at the desk, the welcome desk. So he was leaving just like 2 minutes early to go get there to get ready for the people who come out. And so they started playing this song, and he just felt God's love come over him.
Yeah, what happened next?
Well, he just really felt God's presence, so he told my mom, and then he told the pastor, and eventually he got baptized.
Wow, that's so amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for your story. I really appreciate it. I can take that mic. But before you go, it's so cool just to hear how music, simple music, can give us the chance to experience God's love in a powerful way that leads us to make a decision to follow him. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. Thanks. Can you guys give her a round of applause? Awesome. So as we dive into this final week of knowing God, that's what we're calling this series, the chance to know God. We are going to be talking about what does it look like? How does worship play a role in allowing us to know him deeper? And so would you guys bow your heads as we just open in a word of prayer? I pray for Matt and his message, and we let God speak to us tonight. So Lord, would you just join us in this room? Would you just be present in this space? God, give us the chance to hear from you. Lord, we just are so humbled by your love for us. We're humbled by your sacrifice on the cross, and we are humbled by the gift of worship that it is that we get to praise you and know you deeper. It is in your name that we pray. Amen.
Well, hello, everybody. How are you? You're okay? I think you look good. You look kind of like ready to go a little bit. Listen, I am pumped. This is the last week of the Know God series. So we're not going to be getting to know God anymore in this church. This is the last week of this series. Of course, that's a joke, and you guys aren't even laughing. Are you guys dead this morning? Come on. Tap your neighbor and just shake it out a little bit if you need to. Shake it out, yeah. Don't hurt them. All right, this is not your excuse to beat them up in the don't do that. All right, shake it out. Okay, now we're getting there. Last week of the Know God series, and we've been talking about all kinds of different ways for you to get to know God. And one of the things that we did was the very first week, we took a spiritual pathways assessment. If for some reason you have not taken that spiritual pathways assessment, your leaders will have assessments for you to take. John has a bunch of them as well. And if for some reason you weren't here last week, we gave away packets of these that we wanted you to bring home and give to your parents so that they would take the assessment. And so if that is you and you were not here last week, we want to give you that packet as well to be able to take home so that your parents can take it also. Now, I'm really excited because today we're ending this series, Know God, on worship. And we're going to be talking about worship and what that really means. And before we get into worship, one of the ways that we talk about worship and we do worship here is through music. And if we're honest, music kind of changes us at times, right? It can bring us from a bad mood to a good mood, or sometimes it can bring us from like a good mood to a sad mood, right? Sometimes it's because the music is linked with things in our lives that we remember. sometimes it's just sad music, right? Like sometimes it's fun music and it's kind of like dancey music. You know, like this past year, the song that really kind of got me moving and sort of got me happy and dancing the most was Despacito. Despacito? Anybody, any Despacito fans? Despacito, I don't know why. Listen, I'm not a big Justin Bieber fan or those other guys. I don't know what their names are. But I just when it came on, I just kind of bobbed my head. I don't really know what they talk about. If they talk about bad things, don't tell them your pastor said this to you. But it just was like, that's what I thought was kind of cool. And I would just move to it, you know. But then if a sad song came on, it would be bad news, you know. And they use this in movies a lot, right? Have you ever seen movies like when the Avengers are happening and things are going on with them? It's like powerful, epic music. Right, and like all of a sudden the Hulk is doing his thing and it's like super epic and crazy and you just feel in it and the music is helping that happen. And another thing that happens, I don't know if any of you are scary movie fans. I'm not a scary movie fan at all, okay? But here's what scary movies do. Scary movies have the scary movie music. You know what I'm talking about? This is like super creepy and super weird. And it's like, why did they have to add that into it? It was already scary. And what I was thinking about though is, you know, I get scared in real life. How many of you are like, I admit, I get scared in real life a decent bit, right? Like, maybe it's when the lights go out at your house or something. And I've told you guys a story before about how there's moments when, especially when I was a kid, and even now, like sometimes I'll walk down into my house and the lights will be like super dark. And what I thought about was like, what if in real life, what ended up happening is that sort of scary music, that scary movie music kind of started, right? So like, let's say you're going down into your house and it's getting really dark and all of a sudden, like from the heavens or somewhere around you, like the scary movie music just started. And it just started something like this and it just sort of kept going. Yeah. Like you're walking in your house and there's that scary movie music and you're looking around. What's going on? Why did scary movie music start right now? Either way, you're thinking this is bad, you know, and you just kind of go to grab a glass of milk or something. You know, you're like opening the refrigerator and like, what? Okay, this is weird. I'm gonna hurry back up to my room as soon as I can. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen next. You know, like the dog is there and it's okay, well, what's happening? What's happening? So I don't know about you, but if that happened, if this happened, right? If that happened in that moment in your normal life, it would freak you out, right? Some of you get scared when people say hello to you, all right? It doesn't take anything at all, but when scary movie music starts, then that just takes it to a whole nother level. But as today we're going to talk about worship, and a lot of times when we talk about worship, we talk about music. I'm like, well, let's figure that out some today. Even when we think about that, right? Even when we think about music in church, like what is church music like and Christian music? And, you know, we even use this word worship, and that's kind of a big, heavy word. Like what is worship music and how does it help us to get to know God better? Well, instead of me going on and on and on myself about worship and worship music, I figured that we would bring our very own worship leader out here to tell you all about it. So will you guys give it up for Ryan Jacobs? Well, come on up, Ryan. Give it up for Ryan. Yes, there he is. Come on up, Ryan. Now, Ryan is, first of all, he's incredible. He's a stud. He's done all kinds of different things. Too much. You know, Ryan helps lead all of us in worship every single week. And, you know, he studied worship. He's been around it, you know, sort of his whole life. And so I just have a few questions for you, Ryan. Number one, you know, what is worship? Like, help us understand, what is it?
Yeah, a while ago, I kind of started preparing myself to talk about worship because I knew of more musical worship, but I was like, it goes so much deeper than that, than just music. And so as I looked into the Bible and dug deeper, I started to find that worship is much more an attitude of our heart, of what we give worth to. And sometimes we can worship things that aren't God. And sometimes we have idols in our lives, like you've heard about the Israelites having idols before God. But worship is truly honoring God and glorifying God with what we have, whether that's with our talents, with our time, with our pursuing a right relationship with Him. I think worship is what we bring to God and what we glorify him with.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that, when you think about glorifying him, how do we do that? Like, how are we supposed to worship God? What do we do? How do we do it?
I think it starts with where our hearts are, and that is starting from a place of being humbled and surrendered before our King. I think if worship is what we give worth to in our lives, I think the way that we can give worth and bring worth to God and to Jesus is to pursue that relationship, that daily walk with God. That is to be in the Word, to learn more about him, to walk hand in hand with him every hour of every day, every minute, every second. And so I think just really pursuing him with all we got, with our talents, our skills, if that's studying for you, if that's honoring God with our friendships, if that's honoring God with our tithing, that is worship to God.
Yeah. So why music? Why is music such a big deal? Why is music linked with worship so much in the church?
Well, I think music has the ability to capture our heartstrings. Just like you made the example of scary movie music, kind of gets our heart going a little bit. Music has the tendency to draw on our emotions, and I think it's a cool way to worship God because it's beautiful, honestly. Worship is just beautiful. Music is beautiful, and what a better way to worship our beautiful God than with making music for him that is in itself beautiful. I just believe that we really showcase God and God's glory with music, and so that's why I think I gravitate towards worshiping with music. But obviously, it's so much more than that. But I think music is just an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, we do a lot of weird things in worship here sometimes, okay? Like I was thinking about if a new person came here for the very first time and they saw us like singing, and maybe you're new today and you saw people like spinning and doing heart things and stuff like that, and you're like, what in the world? Even when you see people kind of just raising their hands, and they have their hands raised up, and, what's up with that? Like, why do some people raise their hands, or why do we do different movement type stuff even in worship as well?
Yeah, we do a lot of things that I think make others wonder, what does that mean for me? And I think when you think about movements in worship, I tend to think it's probably wrong to think that there's a right or wrong way to worship with movements or without movements or whatnot. I think it's more where our heart is coming into a time of worship, and from there, what God does with that. A lot of times in the Bible, in God's Word, we hear about David using hands. Specifically, I wanted to share with you a verse from him. It's from Psalm 143:6. I'm going to put that up. But it says, I spread out my hands to you. I thirst for you like a parched land. I think a lot of times our hands out to God is an idea of surrender. It's an idea of, I need you. I thirst for you like I would thirst for water in the desert. That's how much we want to rely on God in times of worship. And so that's just a physical way that we can say, hey, God, like I give you the glory. I surrender everything to you. You are God, and I'm not.
That's awesome.
So I think that's a...
what about, okay, so I get that one. I get the stretch your hands out, and it feels reverent. It feels like we're worshiping. But what about when we're like jumping around and dancing and stuff like that? Like is that kind of, should we be doing that? Does it feel, are we able, how are we worshiping while we're even dancing?
Yeah. I think, once again, it's where our heart is at. There's no right or wrong way to worship our God. In fact, God actually tells us worship with all we got. I mean, there's verses that are saying just worship God, dance, play a lute skillfully, clap your hands, shout for joy. There's so many verses that are almost like a holy shouting at us saying, hey, get into this. This is our God, and look what he's done for us. We need to worship him with all we've got. And so there's actually one story I really like. Raise your hand if you remember David from the Old Testament. King David.
David and Goliath, David?
David and Goliath, David.
Got it, okay.
Yes, you would know him from that. At one point, the Ark of the Covenant, which was actually the 10 Commandments ground up, and where God would actually, his spirit would house above that, it was stolen. And once David and his army had gotten that ark back, David actually danced around so foolishly and clamorously that it has a word in Jewish called halal that is basically just foolishly dancing before the Lord. Okay. I mean, it's goofing around, honestly. And David did that, and it pleased God. And so
I love that.
It's our heart.
There are a lot of foolish dancers out there. Okay,
I love it. I love the foolish dancing.
Exactly, and you're just doing exactly what God is even telling you to do. You know, I love that. I love that all of these things are in the book of Psalms. You know, I mean, one of the things that for any of you that said that in your spiritual pathway, one of the top ones is worship. I said, man, you should read the book of Psalms because there's so many things in there. You know, but at the same time, you know, one of the things that we were talking about earlier, Ryan, was how, you know, what it means to, you know, like how we use worship and how we can kind of use worship to kind of, what do we have it kind of kick off our week? Do we have it, you know, start, you know, what happens in church? You know, what does that look like for us?
Yeah, I think this is a really cool thing that we can talk about because I happen to believe, and I've read a little bit on worship, but I think worship should not be just the beginning of our week or the beginning of our faith journey. I think worship should be the end and out of the overflow of our hearts and where our relationship is with Jesus. So sometimes I think we walk into times of worship on a weekend and that's the only experience we have encountering God at all. And I think if we do that to God, that might be a little bit of a slap in the face. I think true worship comes from the overflow of our hearts when we've spent time getting to know God truly, and not just the emotional side of worship, not just the foolish dancing side of worship, but really the worship that is grounded in the knowledge and the truth of who God is to us, and our response to that is just to go crazy. So that's why I think worship should be the end of the week, and that's exactly why Sabbath became a thing, because the Israelites or the Jewish people would spend so much time in the world that they needed a day to refocus on their God and just focus solely on him for the whole day. Not even work, not even do anything else, but just focus on God and worship God in his presence.
It's such an interesting point that you say about getting ready for worship. You know, even like letting your worship be coming out of the overflow of you. Because I know that, I'm sure you guys have had these moments before, or we've been playing songs here or doing certain things and you just don't feel like worshiping, right? You're just like, this is not me, like doing this. And maybe the reason why that's happening is because your heart isn't ready to, you know, and then you've maybe also had moments, whether it was at camp or a special time here, where you knew that the music was more than just music, right? It was actually worship, like you were praising God during that moment. And it's probably because, as Ryan said, you got to that point of overflow. You know, if you were here last week, you saw me pour into that jar and how, you know, we can overflow, you know, with different things. And I love that. I really hadn't thought about that, about how we worship God out of our overflow. And if we're having a hard time worshiping God, chances are it's because we're not even filled up, you know, to begin with. Now, Ryan, last thing, you know, you have been doing worship, music. And by the way, when did you start? When did you start, like, leading worship?
Actually, when I was a high schooler.
High school student.
I just started doing music. And
you're not in high school anymore? So you got
I am
a few
not.
years.
I'm
A few years,
few years after high
high
school
yeah.
at this point.
Right, exactly. So, okay, if I were to guess, my guess is that I just wonder how you kind of stay fresh. You know, like you've been worshiping for so long. Like, what can God possibly keep teaching you about worship? Has there been anything that you know God's been talking to you lately? You know, what's been going on lately when it comes to I don't know, worship, or even just your own personal relationship with God?
Totally, yeah. Well, I think Matt said something earlier about sometimes we might come into a worship service and not have had any contact with God earlier in the week, and we come in and we just don't feel like worshiping. You know, that doesn't change when you become a worship leader. Even sometimes, honestly, sometimes I'll come into a weekend and I will not feel like worshiping. I will feel like my cup is empty, and I say to myself, how can I lead students in worship if my cup isn't overflowing? And so something that I've been doing is just been spending a lot of time in the Word, and it was just amazing how God used prayer time this week. I was in Exodus 19, 10 through 11, and this is the story. This is a story about Moses and God. So Moses was up in the mountains talking with God face to face. This was before the Ten Commandments. This was at the same time. But God wanted to meet with the Israelites. And he wanted to descend from the mountain, Mount Sinai. And he wanted to meet with his people. But he said, before I meet with you, you're going to have to prepare yourself for 2 days before I can meet with you, because I'm perfect, I'm holy, and before we meet with our perfect and holy God, we need to prepare for that. And so this verse says this. It says, "And the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and be ready by the third day, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people." So for me, that was very eye-opening, considering sometimes I come in to a weekend perhaps unprepared spiritually. Maybe musically I could be prepared, but unprepared spiritually. But that can be a slap in the face to our God, because our God is perfect and holy, and he deserves all that we have and all that we are to give him in worship. And he deserves to be worshipped from the overflow like we were talking about. And so this verse was just kind of a eye-opener for me as a worship leader even. So I'm guessing that you guys sometimes come in and you're not ready to worship. You're not prepared to worship. It's maybe just going through the motions, going through the moves, just reading the words. I encourage you to not have worship be that in your life, that you pursue an authentic relationship with God during the week, so that once you come to these worship times, it's not just about the music. It's about using the music to glorify our God, and just to give all that we are, not just our weekend.
I love that. Okay, so it feels appropriate as we're talking about worship to end in a worship song. Can you play another worship song for us, maybe?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
You guys ready to worship a little bit more?
Okay. Well,
Sure about
actually,
that?
okay, hold on. I didn't hear a really good response. Why don't you get your stuff? So here's what's interesting. I love what he said about getting ready for worship. So we should do that now. You know, I think that maybe we should do that now. In fact, one of the things that's going to be that we want to help you with is we want you to sort of get ready for worship throughout the week as well, you know. And so during your small group time, some of us are going to come around and we're going to give you these kind of large bookmarks or cards or whatever you want to do with it. And basically what it has on there is it has pretty much every song that we've done in here over the last year. Okay, it has just the name of the artist and the name of the song, so that you can go home and whatever music subscription service you use, or you just go on YouTube and check out the songs, build playlists or whatever you want to do. There may even be a couple of songs on there that you don't recognize, and it's because they're songs that we're going to do at Winter Peak, and I think that you're going to really, really love it. It's going to kind of get you ready for that. But while we get ready for this last song, what I would like for you all to do is just kind of bow your heads right now. Just bow your heads. And Ryan is going to play this last song close. And before he plays it, I want you to think about your relationship with God. Think about who he is to you. Some of you may have had a great relationship with God and you've worshiped him before. Some of you may not. This might be brand new for you. I want to talk first to the people who have had this relationship with God before. I want you to think about back on a moment when you felt like you were worshiping him in a strong way. Remember what he did in and you in that time. Maybe the time you gave your life to Christ, or a time you prayed for something and you saw him answer. Just picture your heart getting filled up with him. And if you're kind of new to this whole thing, I want you to just think about the blessings that you have in your life. Because the truth is, you may not feel like that you have as much as other people, but you know you have more than others. You know that you have blessings. Maybe it's your family, or maybe it's a school you get to go to. The fact that you're in a warm room right now is a blessing, and not outside like so many other people. So God, we ask that right now you prepare our hearts for this worship.
Just wherever you're at, if you feel led to stand, if you want to sit, if you want to pray, I want you to feel led to do what is comfortable for you in this. Let's just worship our King for who he is. In the arms of the Father. In the arms of the Father, there is love like no other. He who formed all things offers love to me. Where you go, we will follow. Through the dark, through the narrow, and in all we do, we are bound to you. Oh, want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. We are found in your presence. Would you stand with me? We are found in your presence, seeking you in your fullness. Give us eyes to see that you are all we need. Oh, I want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. Sing that again out to him. I want to be close. I want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. My sole devotion, my only focus, to worship you. My life surrendered, my heart abandoned for more of you.
my sole devotion, my only focus to worship you. My life surrendered, my heart abandoned for more of you. I want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world that compares to all you are. Make this our praise. I want to be close, just our voices, to you. I want to be close. So I want to be close to you. I want to be close to you. There's nothing in this world Lord God, that's our prayer, that we could just be closer to you, so that our worship times would be more invigorated and more powerful. That we're not just saying words, we're not just doing moves, but we're following you with our hearts. That we would genuinely fall in love with the one we are worshiping. That we would just want to be in your presence 100% of the week. That we wouldn't even think of just giving you leftovers, but all that we have and all that we are. We thank you for this time of worship. We thank you for who you are. In your name, I pray these things. Amen. So, guys, I'm going to dismiss you at this point. So, ladies are going to stay in the room, and dudes, you can go off into your room. Thanks for being a part of this. God bless you.